Master Sergeant Diana Cruz stood in line at the Naval Special Warfare Center cafeteria, balancing a tray of coffee and oatmeal while reviewing mission reports on her phone. The facility in Virginia Beach was bustling with the morning rush, SEALs heading to training, support staff grabbing breakfast, the familiar chaos of a special operations base coming to life. She'd been on site for 3 days, waiting for security clearances to process before she could begin her real work. 3 days of bureaucratic limbo, dressed in civilian clothes because her unit didn't wear standard uniforms. 3 days of being invisible in a world of loud, confident warriors. Diana preferred it that way. Invisibility was her job. "Excuse me, miss." The voice came from behind her, loud and commanding. "This line is for military personnel only. The civilian cafeteria is in Building 6. Diana turned to find a man in Navy PT gear standing behind her. He was tall, probably 6 feet, with graying hair and the weathered face of someone who'd spent decades in the field. His shirt bore the SEAL trident, and something about his bearing screamed senior officer. "I'm aware of where I am," Diana said quietly, turning back to the cashier. The man stepped closer, his voice taking on an edge. "Then you should also be aware that this is a restricted facility. Civilian contractors have their own dining areas." Diana paid for her breakfast and picked up her tray. "I'm not a contractor." "Then what are you?" The man moved to block her path, crossing his arms. "Because you're clearly not military. No uniform, no ID visible, no rank insignia. So what are you doing in a SEAL team facility?" Diana could feel eyes turning toward them. Other SEALs were watching now, curious about the confrontation. She recognized the dynamic, the alpha male establishing territory, making sure everyone knew who belonged and who didn't. "I have clearance to be here," she said evenly. "From whom?" "That's classified." The man laughed, a harsh sound that carried across the cafeteria. "Classified, right, let me guess, you're someone's girlfriend, or maybe you're here to do a story for some magazine. A day in the life of Navy SEALs." He looked around at the other men, playing to his audience. "We get this a lot. People think they can charm their way onto base, get some Instagram photos with real warriors." Diana felt the familiar burn of anger in her chest, but her face remained neutral. She'd been dealing with men like this her entire career. The ones who saw a woman, especially a small Latina woman, 5'4" and 120 pounds, and assumed she was nobody. "I'm not here for photos," Diana said. "Then why are you here?" "That's also classified." The man's expression hardened. "Okay, that's enough. I'm calling security. If you won't explain what you're doing here, they can sort it out." He pulled out his phone. "Admiral Grayson, I wouldn't do that if I were you." The new voice came from across the cafeteria. Diana recognized the speaker, Commander Mike Santos, a Navy SEAL she'd worked with on 2 previous operations. He was walking toward them with the easy confidence of someone who knew exactly what was happening. The Admiral Grayson apparently lowered his phone. "Santos, you know this woman." "I do, sir. And if you call security on her, you're going to have a very uncomfortable conversation with JSOC in about 30 minutes. Grayson's eyebrows rose. "JSOC? What does Joint Special Operations Command have to do with?" He looked at Diana again, really looked at her this time. "Who are you?" Diana set down her tray on a nearby table. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a black credential case. Inside was an ID that looked nothing like standard military identification. No photo, no name, just a number and a barcode. And a small insignia, a cobra wrapped around a blade. Grayson took the case, studied it, and went very still. "This is your steel cobra," Diana said quietly, "and I'd appreciate it if you'd keep your voice down." The Admiral's face had gone pale. He handed back her credentials with hands that weren't quite steady. "I apologize, I had no idea. Your file, it's not in the regular system." "No, it's not." I didn't recognize." Grayson seemed to be struggling to form complete sentences. "Master Sergeant, I owe you an apology, a significant one." Diana picked up her tray again. "You were doing your job, Admiral, protecting your facility, I understand." "No, that's not. I made assumptions, wrong assumptions." Grayson looked around at the other SEALs who were watching. "Gentlemen, return to your breakfast, nothing to see here." The crowd dispersed slowly, with many backward glances. Commander Santos remained, looking amused. Admiral, if I could have a word with Master Sergeant Cruz in private. Santos gestured toward a corner table. Grayson nodded, still looking shaken. Of course, Master Sergeant, again I apologize. Diana followed Santos to the table where they sat down away from the crowd. Santos was grinning. You could have just told him who you were right away, Santos said. I could have, but I didn't feel like it. You enjoyed watching him squirm. A little. Diana took a sip of her coffee. What are you doing here, Mike? Last I heard you were in Afghanistan. Rotated back 3 weeks ago, teaching a course on close quarters combat. Santos leaned back in his chair. I heard a steel Cobra was coming to base. Didn't realize it was you. They didn't tell you. Steel Cobra assignments are compartmentalized. They just said someone was coming for protective detail work. Santos studied her face. How are you, Diana? Really? Diana knew what he was asking. The last time they'd worked together had been 18 months ago in Pakistan, a joint operation to extract a high-value target. Things had gone wrong. People had died. I'm fine, she said. That's what you always say. Because it's always true. Santos didn't look convinced, but he didn't press. So what brings you to Virginia Beach? The Steel Cobra assignments I've seen are usually overseas, high-threat environments. This one's domestic, can't give you details. Classified. Everything about Steel Cobra is classified, Mike. You know that. Santos nodded. He was one of the few people who even knew the Steel Cobra unit existed. Most military personnel had never heard of it. Even those with high-level clearances only knew rumors, whispered stories about an elite protection unit that guarded the military's most valuable assets in the most dangerous situations. The unit had 12 members, all hand-picked from various special operations backgrounds, all experts in close protection, counterterrorism, and what the military euphemistically called threat neutralization. Diana had been Steel Cobra 6 for 4 years. Before that, she'd been a ranger, one of the first women to complete ranger school when it opened to females. She'd served 2 combat deployments in Afghanistan, earned a Silver Star for actions during an ambush, and caught the attention of recruiters looking for exceptional operators. The Steel Cobra selection process had made Ranger School look easy. How long are you here? Santos asked. Unknown, could be days, could be months, depends on the threat assessment. Can you at least tell me who you're protecting? Diana hesitated, then figured Santos had high enough clearance. Secretary of Defense is coming to observe training exercises. There's been chatter about a potential threat. My team is advanced security. Your team, how many Steel Cobras are here? Just me for now. The rest deploy if the threat level escalates. Santos whistled softly. They sent you in alone for a SecDef protection detail. I'm not alone. Your security teams are here. I'm just the invisible layer, the one nobody's supposed to know about. Until Admiral Grayson decided to interrogate you in the cafeteria. Diana smiled despite herself. That was unfortunate. He's a good man, actually, little old school, but his heart's in the right place. He'll feel terrible about this. He should, but I'm used to it. Santos's expression grew serious. You shouldn't have to be. You've earned more respect than that. A Silver Star, 2 Bronze Stars, 4 years as Steel Cobra. Diana, you're one of the most decorated soldiers in the Special Operations community. People should know that. People knowing defeats the purpose. Steel Cobra works because we're invisible, because threats don't see us coming. Still, must get old being underestimated all the time. Diana thought about it. The years of being overlooked, dismissed, assumed to be someone's girlfriend or secretary or lost civilian. The constant need to prove herself, even to allies. It's useful, she said finally. People who underestimate me make mistakes. Those mistakes keep the people I protect alive. Admiral Grayson appeared at their table, his expression contrite. Master Sergeant Cruz, I wonder if I could speak with you, privately. Santos stood. I'll catch up with you later, Diana. Stay safe. After Santos left, Grayson sat down heavily. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in the last 15 minutes. I made a fool of myself, he said without preamble. I saw a small woman in civilian clothes and assumed you didn't belong. That was wrong. Inexcusable, actually. Admiral, please let me finish. I've been in the Navy for 32 years. I've commanded SEAL teams, led operations in 6 countries, trained thousands of warriors, and I just treated one of the most elite operators in the military like an intruder. He shook his head. I'm ashamed. Diana studied him. His remorse seemed genuine, deeper than just embarrassment at making a mistake. Why, she asked. Why am I ashamed? Why does this bother you so much? You didn't know who I was. You were protecting your facility. That's your job. Grayson was quiet for a moment. I have a daughter, he said finally. She's in the Army military police. She's wanted to go to Ranger School, try for special operations, but she's been told repeatedly that she's not the right fit, too small, not strong enough, should stick to support roles. He looked at Diana. Sound familiar? Very. I've been telling her those people are wrong, that she's capable of anything she sets her mind to. But then I turn around and treat you, someone who's achieved everything my daughter aspires to, like you're nobody, like you don't belong. Grayson's voice was rough with emotion. What kind of father does that make me? What kind of leader? Diana felt her anger dissipating, replaced by something unexpected. Understanding, maybe, or empathy. Admiral, your daughter is lucky to have you supporting her. Most of us didn't have that. My father told me the military was no place for women, said I should get married, have kids, be normal. Diana smiled sadly. We haven't spoken in 6 years. I'm sorry. Don't be, I made my choice and I don't regret it. Diana leaned forward. But your daughter, she's going to face what I faced. What every woman in special operations faces. People will doubt her, will assume she's less capable, will make her prove herself over and over again. How did you deal with it? I stopped caring what they thought. I focused on being excellent at my job. Eventually, the doubters either came around or didn't matter anymore. Diana paused. And I found allies, people like Commander Santos who judged me on my performance, not my gender. Those allies made all the difference. Grayson nodded slowly. Master Sergeant, I'd like to make amends for this morning. Is there anything I can do to support your mission here? Actually, yes. I need access to your security briefings. Threat assessments, vulnerability analyses, everything related to the SecDef visit. Consider it done. I'll have my staff send everything to your secure terminal. Thank you, Admiral. Grayson stood to leave, then paused. Can I ask you something about Steel Cobra? Depends on the question. How do you get selected? What does it take? Diana considered how much to reveal. Steel Cobra selection was classified, but the basic parameters weren't secret. You have to be recommended by a senior officer with the right clearances. Then you go through psychological screening, background investigation, and skills assessment. If you pass all that, you get invited to selection. What's selection like? Classified, but I can tell you this, it's designed to break you. Physically, mentally, emotionally. They want to see who you are when everything's stripped away, when you're exhausted, scared, and pushed past your limits. And you survived it. Barely, of the 20 candidates in my class, 4 of us finished. I was the only woman. How many women have made it through Steel Cobra selection? Diana's expression hardened. I'm the only one, 3 others have been invited, none finished. Why not? Because it's not designed for women. The physical standards are set for male operators. The scenarios assume you have male strength and size. It's not impossible, but it's... Diana searched for the right word. Brutal. But you made it. I'm stubborn and I had something to prove. Diana stood, picking up her tray. Now if you'll excuse me, Admiral, I have work to do. Diana spent the rest of the day reviewing security protocols for the Secretary of Defense's visit. The SecDef was scheduled to arrive in 5 days for a demonstration of new naval special warfare tactics. The event would include live-fire exercises, close-quarters combat demonstrations, and briefings on emerging technologies. It was a high-profile visit with significant security challenges. The base would be crowded with personnel, media, and civilian contractors. Lots of moving pieces, lots of opportunities for something to go wrong. Diana's job was to identify those vulnerabilities and eliminate them. She worked from a small office in the security wing, reviewing camera feeds, access logs, and threat assessments. The intelligence was concerning. There had been chatter on extremist forums about targeting military leadership. Nothing specific, but enough to justify extra precautions. Steel Cobra existed for situations like this, when the threat was credible but not confirmed. when regular security might not be enough. Diana was deep in analysis when someone knocked on her door. She looked up to find a woman in Navy uniform standing in the doorway, Lieutenant Commander by her insignia, mid-30s, with dark hair pulled back in a regulation bun. Master Sergeant Cruz, I'm Lieutenant Commander Jessica Park. I'm the security coordinator for the SecDef visit. Diana gestured to a chair. Come in, Commander. I've been reviewing your threat assessments. Good work. Park sat down, looking relieved. Thank you. I was worried when I heard JSOC was sending someone. Thought it meant I'd missed something critical. You didn't miss anything. This is just an abundance of caution. The chatter we're seeing is probably nothing, but with the SecDef, we can't take chances. I appreciate that. I have to admit, I've never worked with Steel Cobra before. The briefing I received was pretty vague about what you actually do. Diana smiled. That's intentional. Steel Cobra operates best when people don't know exactly what we're doing, but basically I'm here to provide an additional layer of security. I'll be close to the SecDef during the visit, but invisible. If a threat emerges, I handle it before it reaches your security perimeter. So you're like a last line of defense. More like a shadow. I blend into the background, but I'm always watching, always ready. Park nodded, taking notes. What do you need from me? Full access to your security plans. I need to know where everyone will be positioned, what the SecDef's movements look like, where the vulnerabilities are. Of course, I can send you everything we have. Park hesitated. Can I ask you something personal? Diana tensed slightly. Go ahead. How long have you been doing this, Steel Cobra work? 4 years. And before that? Army Ranger, 2 deployments in Afghanistan. Park's eyes widened. You were a Ranger, one of the first women. Yes. That must have been incredibly difficult. Diana shrugged. It was challenging, but worth it. I wanted to try for special operations, Park said quietly. When I was younger, but I was told Navy didn't have the same opportunities for women, that I should focus on intelligence or logistics. Things are changing, Diana said, slowly but changing. Not fast enough, Park looked frustrated. I see the male officers, the ones I went to the academy with. They've got SEAL training, special operations experience. They're commanding teams, leading missions, and I'm coordinating security events and writing reports. Diana recognized the bitterness in Park's voice. She'd felt it herself years ago. Commander, can I give you some advice? Please. Stop comparing your career to theirs. You're on a different path, but that doesn't make it less valuable. Security coordination takes skill. It takes strategic thinking and attention to detail. The SecDef's life is in your hands right now. That's not a small thing. I know, but you feel like you're missing out, like the real action is somewhere else. Diana leaned forward. I felt the same way for years. Then I realized something. There is no real action. There's just the mission in front of you, and you can either execute it with excellence or waste time wishing you were doing something else. Park was quiet for a moment. How did you get to Steel Cobra? I mean, what was the path? I stopped focusing on what I couldn't do and started being exceptional at what I could do. I became the best Ranger I could be. I volunteered for the hardest assignments. I made myself impossible to ignore. Eventually, someone noticed and nominated me for Steel Cobra. And you think I could do the same? Diana studied the younger woman. She saw intelligence, determination, and something else. Hunger. The same hunger Diana had felt when she was starting out. I think you could do anything you set your mind to, Diana said. But you have to want it more than you want comfort, more than you want people to like you. Special operations is hard on everyone, but it's especially hard on women. You'll be doubted, dismissed, and underestimated constantly. You need to decide if you can live with that. I can, Park said immediately. Then more thoughtfully, I think I can. Then start preparing now. Get in the best shape of your life. Study tactics. Build relationships with people in special operations, and when an opportunity comes, be ready to seize it. Park stood looking more energized than when she'd arrived. Thank you, Master Sergeant, for the advice and the honesty. Call me Diana and Park. Yes. Don't let anyone tell you you're not capable. The only person who gets to decide your limits is you. After Park left, Diana returned to her security analysis, but her mind kept drifting to the conversation. She'd been where Park was frustrated, hungry for more, unsure how to get there. Diana had been lucky. She'd had a commanding officer in Afghanistan who'd believed in her, who'd pushed her to try for Ranger School. Without that support, she might still be flying helicopters or serving in a support role. Now she was Steel Cobra 6, one of 12 of the most elite protective operators in the world, and nobody knew her name. That was the trade-off: excellence in exchange for anonymity, impact in exchange for recognition. Most days, Diana was fine with that trade. But sometimes, like this morning, when Admiral Grayson had assumed she was a lost civilian, it wore on her. Her phone buzzed with an encrypted message. It was from her team leader, Colonel Marcus Hayes, who ran Steel Cobra operations from an undisclosed location. Threat assessment upgraded. New intel suggests credible risk to SecDef visit, deploying Steel Cobra 2 and 5 as backup. They'll arrive in 48 hours. Maintain cover and continue advance work. Diana felt her pulse quicken. If Hayes was deploying additional operators, the threat was serious. Steel Cobra didn't deploy teams unless absolutely necessary. They were too valuable, too scarce to waste on false alarms. She pulled up the latest intelligence reports and started reading. The chatter had increased in the last 24 hours. More specific now. References to Virginia Beach and naval operations and sending a message. Could be nothing. Online extremists talked big all the time, rarely followed through. But Diana's instincts, honed over years of combat and close protection work, said this was different. This felt real. She pulled up the base map and started marking vulnerable points. The demonstration would take place in an open training area with limited cover. The SecDef would be exposed, visible. Even with Park's security team in place, there would be angles of attack. Diana's job was to identify those angles and either block them or position herself to intercept any threat. She worked through the afternoon and into the evening, building a three-dimensional model of the security environment in her mind. By the time she looked up, it was past 8 o'clock and the building was nearly empty. Diana stretched, feeling the familiar ache in her left shoulder. Old injury from Pakistan, never quite healed right. The docs had said it might require surgery eventually, but she'd refused. Surgery meant downtime. Downtime meant missing missions. She gathered her materials and locked them in the secure safe in her office. Outside, the base was quiet, most personnel either off-duty or at home. Diana walked across the dark parking lot to her rental car, her awareness automatically scanning for threats. Movement to her left, someone in the shadows. Diana's hand went to her concealed weapon, a compact Glock 43 she carried everywhere, but she didn't draw, not yet. Master Sergeant Cruz, Admiral Grayson stepped into the light, working late. Diana relaxed slightly but kept her hand near her weapon. Admiral, you startled me. I apologize, I saw your light on and wanted to check in. Grayson looked uncomfortable. I also wanted to give you this. He handed her a folder. Diana opened it to find a photograph of a young woman in Army uniform. She looked like a younger, female version of Grayson. That's my daughter, Sarah, Grayson said. She's stationed at Fort Bragg, military police like I mentioned. She looks like a good soldier. She is, and after our conversation this morning, I called her. Told her about meeting you, about Steel Cobra. Diana tensed. Admiral, you know that's classified. I didn't give her details. Just told her I'd met a female special operations soldier who was one of the most elite operators in the military. She wanted to know more about you. Admiral, I know it's classified, but Diana, may I call you Diana? She nodded. Diana, my daughter is losing faith. She's been passed over for special assignments 3 times. Been told she's not the right fit for advanced training. She's starting to believe she's hit her ceiling. Grayson's voice was thick with emotion. I wanted her to know that there are women out there doing the impossible, women who have broken through barriers she hasn't even attempted yet. Diana looked at the photo again. Sarah Grayson had kind eyes and her father's determined jaw. She looked young, maybe 25. The same age Diana had been when she'd gone to Ranger School. What do you want from me, Admiral? I want you to talk to her. Just a phone call, maybe. Tell her it's possible. Tell her not to give up. Diana hesitated. Steel Cobra operators were supposed to maintain low profiles, avoid personal connections that could compromise their anonymity. But she looked at Grayson's face. The hope there, the desperation of a father watching his daughter's dreams die, and found herself nodding. One phone call. But Admiral, I can't promise her anything. I can't get her into special operations or smooth her path. All I can do is tell her my story. That's all I'm asking. Grayson gave her Sarah's number and thanked her profusely before leaving. Diana sat in her car, looking at the number on her phone. She could ignore this, could claim operational security and never make the call. But she thought about her own father, who'd never supported her military career, who'd told her she was wasting her life, that she should be home with a husband and children instead of playing soldier. What would it have meant to have a father like Grayson, one who believed in her, who fought for her dreams? Diana dialed the number. The phone rang 3 times before a cautious voice answered. This is Private First Class Grayson. Sarah Grayson, this is Master Sergeant Diana Cruz. Your father gave me your number. There was a sharp intake of breath. You're the Steel Cobra operator. Dad said he'd met you, but I didn't expect you to actually call. Your father asked me to. He's worried about you. He told you I'm a failure. Sarah's voice was bitter. He told me you're losing faith. That's different from failing. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Did he tell you about the special operations course, the one I got rejected from? He mentioned you'd been passed over a few times. 3 times, 3 different courses. Each time they said I wasn't the right fit. Too small, not enough upper body strength, insufficient leadership experience. Sarah laughed, a harsh sound. The guys I went through basic with, they're all in special assignments now, and I'm directing traffic at the main gate. Diana understood the frustration, had lived it herself. Sarah, can I tell you something your father probably didn't mention? I've been rejected from more courses and assignments than I can count. I was told I wasn't strong enough for Ranger School. Was told I'd never hack it in combat aviation. Was told I should stick to administrative roles where I belonged. But you made it anyway. Eventually, after years of proving myself, of being twice as good to get half the credit, after sacrificing relationships and comfort and any semblance of a normal life. Diana paused. I'm not telling you this to discourage you. I'm telling you so you understand what you're signing up for. I already know it's hard. No, you don't. Not really. Hard is one thing. This is something else entirely. This is having male soldiers question your presence in the field. This is being groped by a fellow ranger during a night training exercise and knowing if you report it, you'll be labeled a troublemaker. This is watching men with half your skill get promoted while you're passed over because you don't fit the image. Sarah was quiet. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller. Why do you keep doing it then? If it's that bad, why stay? Diana thought about it. It was a question she'd asked herself 1,000 times, usually at 3 in the morning when the nightmares woke her and sleep wouldn't come back. Because the mission matters, she said finally. Because I'm good at what I do and people stay alive because of that. Because every time I succeed, it makes it a tiny bit easier for the next woman. And because I'm stubborn enough to believe I can change a system that doesn't want to change. My dad said you're Steel Cobra. That's like the highest level of special operations, right? It's one of them, very specialized work. How did you get selected? Diana considered how much to reveal. I stopped waiting for permission. I stopped trying to fit into what they expected me to be. I focused on being excellent at my actual job, and when opportunity knocked, I was ready. That's what everyone says, be excellent, be ready. But how, specifically how? Diana smiled. She liked Sarah's directness. Specifically, I worked out twice a day, every day. I studied tactics and strategy in my free time. I volunteered for every difficult assignment. I built relationships with people in special operations, not to use them, but to learn from them. And I developed a specialty that made me valuable. What specialty? Languages. I'm fluent in Arabic and Pashto. That made me essential in Afghanistan. Hard to dismiss someone when you need them to communicate with locals. Diana paused. What are you good at, Sarah? What's your specialty? I don't know. I'm decent at everything, great at nothing. Then find something and become great at it. Something the military needs. Something that makes you indispensable. Like what? That's for you to figure out. But think about where the military is operating, what skills are in short supply. Cybersecurity, drone operations, certain languages, find a gap and fill it. Sarah was quiet, processing. Master Sergeant Cruz. Diana. Diana, can I ask you something personal? You can ask, I might not answer. Do you ever regret it, choosing this life? Diana thought about the question honestly. Did she regret it? The loneliness, the injuries, the nightmares, the constant battle to prove herself. Sometimes, she admitted. I see my old friends from high school. They have husbands, kids, normal lives. They go to soccer games and PTA meetings and worry about mortgage payments. And part of me wonders what that would be like. But then I think about the people I've protected, the lives I've saved, the missions that succeeded because I was there, and I know I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. Diana's voice grew firmer. Sarah, this path isn't for everyone. It requires sacrifice, real sacrifice. You need to decide if you're willing to pay that price. I know I am. Then prove it, not to your father, not to the men who rejected you. Prove it to yourself. Become so good at something that they can't afford not to use you. And when they finally give you a chance, don't just meet the standard, exceed it. They talked for another 30 minutes, Diana sharing stories from Ranger School and her deployments, Sarah asking questions about training and preparation. By the end of the call, Sarah sounded energized, determined. Thank you, Sarah said, for calling, for being honest, for not just giving me some motivational speech about girl power. Diana laughed. Girl power doesn't get you through special operations training. Competence, determination, and pure stubbornness do. After hanging up, Diana sat in her car for a while, thinking about the conversation. She'd meant what she said, this life required real sacrifice. But talking to Sarah had reminded her why those sacrifices mattered. Every woman who made it through opened the door a little wider for the next one. Diana's phone buzzed with another encrypted message from Colonel Hayes. Steel Cobra 2 and 5 arrive tomorrow 600. Meet them at the safe house. New intel attached. Threat level elevated to orange. Diana pulled up the new intelligence report. Her stomach tightened as she read. The chatter had become specific. A known extremist group was planning something targeting naval leadership. The exact details were unclear, but the timing matched the SecDef visit. And there were references to inside help, someone on the base who was feeding information. This was no longer a precautionary deployment. This was a real threat. Diana drove to her hotel, her mind already running through contingencies. If there was an insider feeding information, the regular security protocols could be compromised. Park's team, no matter how competent, might be working with incomplete or inaccurate information. Steel Cobra existed for exactly this scenario, when the normal security apparatus couldn't be fully trusted, when an additional, invisible layer was needed. Diana spent the night reviewing the intelligence, mapping potential attack vectors, and preparing her equipment. She couldn't sleep with the threat level elevated. At 600 the next morning, she drove to the safe house, a nondescript rental property 10 miles from base. Two people were waiting, a massive man with dark skin and a shaved head, and a petite Asian woman with cold eyes. Steel Cobra 2, the man said, extending his hand. Call me Marcus, this is Jade. Steel Cobra 5, Jade nodded but didn't offer her hand. She was scanning the area, already in operational mode. 6, Diana said, using her designation. Thanks for coming. Hayes said you had a credible threat, Marcus said. Fill us in. Diana spread out the intelligence reports on the table. SecDef visit in 4 days. Chatter indicates a planned attack, possibly with inside help. We don't know the exact nature of the threat or who the insider is. Jade leaned over the reports, her eyes moving rapidly. This chatter pattern suggests a coordinated attack, multiple actors possibly simultaneous. They're planning something big. Agreed, Diana said. Which means we need to be everywhere the SecDef is, plus everywhere he might be. Traditional security focuses on the principle. We need to focus on the threat before it reaches the security perimeter. Marcus nodded. Classic Steel Cobra deployment. We identify and neutralize threats before they materialize. Who's running base security? Lieutenant Commander Park. She's competent, but this might be beyond her experience level. We brief her, Jade asked. Diana shook her head. Not on Steel Cobra specifically, but we coordinate with her team. Hayes wants us invisible unless absolutely necessary. They spent the next several hours planning. Marcus would position himself near the demonstration area, posing as a civilian contractor. Jade would embed with the media crew that would be covering the event. Diana would maintain close proximity to the SecDef, blending into his security detail. "What about the insider?" Marcus asked. "If someone on base is feeding intel, we need to identify them." "Park's running background checks on everyone with access to the security plans," Diana said. "But that's hundreds of people. We won't identify them in time." "Then we assume everything is compromised," Jade said. "We don't trust the security plans, we make our own." It was good tactical thinking. Diana nodded. "Agreed. We map our own coverage areas, establish our own communications, operate independently of base security." "And if the threat manifests?" Marcus asked. "We handle it," Diana said simply. "That's what we do." The next 3 days passed in a blur of preparation and surveillance. Diana, Marcus, and Jade worked around the clock, mapping every inch of the demonstration area, identifying sight lines and potential attack positions, running through hundreds of scenarios. Diana barely slept, surviving on coffee and adrenaline. The familiar pre-mission tension settled over her, the heightened awareness, the constant mental calculations, the weight of responsibility. On the morning of the SecDef visit, Diana positioned herself in the crowd of naval personnel gathered for the demonstration. She wore civilian clothes that helped her blend in, dark pants, a simple jacket that concealed her weapon. Her hair was down, making her look younger, less military. Invisible. The Secretary of Defense arrived at 900, flanked by his official security detail, 6 Secret Service agents in suits and sunglasses. Lieutenant Commander Park's base security team formed an outer perimeter. To the casual observer, the security looked solid. But Diana saw the gaps, the angle from the northwest corner that the security team had missed, the civilian contractors who hadn't been thoroughly screened, the camera dead zone near the equipment staging area. Marcus was positioned near that dead zone. Jade had embedded herself with the media crew, her camera giving her an excuse to be anywhere, looking at everything. Diana stayed mobile, circulating through the crowd, her eyes constantly scanning. She'd learned to recognize threats through pattern recognition, the person who was too interested, too focused, moving against the flow of the crowd. The demonstration began. SEAL teams ran through close-quarters combat drills, demonstrating new tactics and equipment. The SecDef watched with his entourage, occasionally asking questions, looking impressed. Everything seemed normal. Too normal. Diana's instincts were screaming that something was wrong. She keyed her concealed microphone, connected to Marcus and Jade through encrypted comms. 6 to 2 and 5, anyone else feeling this? Affirmative, Jade responded. It's too quiet, where's our threat? Maybe the chatter was wrong, Marcus suggested. Maybe they called it off. But Diana didn't think so. She'd learned to trust her gut, and her gut said the attack was still coming. Then she saw him. A naval officer standing near the equipment area, Lieutenant Commander rank by his insignia. He was watching the SecDef with unusual intensity, and his hand kept moving to his pocket. Diana started moving toward him, casual but purposeful. The officer pulled something from his pocket. Diana's hand went to her weapon. But it was just a phone. He was checking his phone. Diana relaxed slightly but kept watching. The officer typed something, hit send, then looked toward the northwest corner. The corner Diana had identified as a security gap. 6 to all units, northwest corner, check it now. Marcus was already moving, his massive frame covering ground quickly. Diana saw him reach the corner, saw him stop, saw his hand go to his concealed weapon. We have a problem, Marcus said over comms. Rifle case, hidden behind the equipment, this is real. Jade on the media platform, Jade's voice came through urgent. Guy with a camera, that's not a camera. He's assembling something, looks like shit, it's a weapon. Everything happened at once. Diana moved toward the SecDef, keying her radio to alert the Secret Service. Credible threat, northwest corner and media platform. Move the principal now. The Secret Service agents reacted instantly, forming a protective circle around the SecDef and beginning to move him toward the armored vehicle. But Diana had seen the officer with the phone. He was moving too, heading toward the SecDef with his hand back in his pocket. Diana intercepted him, stepping into his path. Sir, I need you to stop. The officer's eyes widened. Who are you? Get out of my way. His hand came out of his pocket, holding not a phone but a small pistol. Diana moved on pure instinct and training. She grabbed his wrist, redirecting the weapon away from the SecDef while driving her other hand into his throat. The officer went down gasping. Chaos erupted. Secret Service agents had their weapons drawn. Park's security team was running toward the northwest corner. The crowd was scattering. Diana had the officer on the ground, his weapon secured, her knee in his back. "Steel Cobra 6. I have one suspect in custody." Officer attempted to draw a weapon near the principal. Admiral Grayson appeared, his face pale. "Lieutenant Commander Morrison, what the hell is going on?" "He's your insider," Diana said, maintaining control of the struggling officer. "He signaled the other shooters." "Other shooters?" Grayson's eyes went wide. "Northwest corner and media platform. My team is engaging now." Over comms, she heard Marcus. "Suspect in custody, had a disassembled rifle. No shots fired." Then Jade, "Same here. Got him before he could assemble his weapon. This was coordinated." The Secret Service had the SecDef in his vehicle and were evacuating. Park's security team was locking down the base. And Diana was kneeling on a naval officer who just tried to assassinate the Secretary of Defense. Admiral Grayson was staring at her with something like awe. "You're Steel Cobra. You were here the whole time." "Yes, sir, that's what we do." The aftermath took hours. FBI agents swarmed the base, interviewing witnesses and processing the 3 suspects. Diana, Marcus, and Jade gave statements to federal investigators, carefully omitting any classified details about Steel Cobra operations. Lieutenant Commander Morrison, the insider, was former military who'd been radicalized online. He'd recruited 2 accomplices, also veterans, and planned a coordinated assassination. They'd studied the security protocols, identified the gaps, planned their attack for maximum impact. They hadn't counted on Steel Cobra. Late that evening, Diana sat in Admiral Grayson's office, exhausted but wired. Marcus and Jade had already left, returning to their deployment locations. The crisis was over. "I owe you an apology," Grayson said. "Again, when I met you in the cafeteria, I thought you were nobody. Turns out you saved the Secretary of Defense's life." "I was just doing my job, Admiral." "Your job is extraordinary." Grayson poured 2 glasses of whiskey and handed one to Diana. "I called Sarah, told her what happened. Well, the unclassified version." "How did she react?" "She said she wants to be like you when she grows up." Grayson smiled. "She's 25, but I know what she meant." Diana took a sip of whiskey, feeling the burn. "Admiral, your daughter doesn't need to be like me. She needs to be the best version of herself. That's all any of us can do." "Will you talk to her again? Keep mentoring her." Diana hesitated. Steel Cobra operators were supposed to avoid ongoing personal connections. But she thought about Sarah, about the hope in her voice during their phone call. "I'll stay in touch," Diana said. "When I can, but Admiral, you need to understand, I can't guarantee her success. I can't get her into special operations. All I can do is share what I've learned." "That's enough, more than enough." Lieutenant Commander Park appeared in the doorway, looking exhausted but relieved. "Master Sergeant Cruz, the FBI wants one more statement, and the SecDef's office called. He wants to thank you personally." Diana stood, draining her whiskey. "Tell them I'm happy to give another statement, but I'll pass on the thanks. Steel Cobra doesn't exist, remember." "Right, of course," Park smiled. "But off the record, that was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. The way you identified the threat, coordinated the response, took down Morrison, it was perfect." "It was training, years of training." "It was more than that. It was instinct, courage." Park's expression grew serious. "You inspired me today, watching you work, seeing what's possible. I'm going to apply for special operations training again, and this time I'm not taking no for an answer." After Park left, Diana gathered her equipment and prepared to leave. Her work here was done. Tomorrow she'd fly to another city, another assignment, another crisis that required Steel Cobra's invisible touch. Admiral Grayson walked her to her car. "Where do you go from here?" "Classified, sir." "Of course." He paused. "Diana, thank you, not just for today, but for the example you set, for showing that excellence has no gender, that the best warrior for the job might be a small woman nobody sees coming." Diana thought about that, about all the times she'd been underestimated, dismissed, assumed to be nobody. Admiral, can I tell you something? For years, I resented being invisible, resented that people saw me and assumed I didn't matter. But I've learned something important. What's that? Being underestimated is a weapon. When people see a small woman and assume she's not a threat, they make mistakes. They let their guard down. They don't see the danger until it's too late. Diana smiled. I'm still Cobra 6 because I'm invisible, because I blend in, because nobody ever sees me coming. Until they do. Until they do. Diana drove away from the base as the sun set over Virginia Beach. Her phone buzzed with a message from Colonel Hayes. Excellent work. SecDef sends his gratitude. Next assignment comes through in 48 hours. Take some downtime. Downtime, Diana almost laughed. She'd take a hot shower, a real meal, maybe 8 hours of sleep. That was Steel Cobra downtime. But first, she had one more call to make. Sarah Grayson answered on the first ring. Diana, Dad told me what happened. Well, some of it, he was pretty vague. It's classified, Sarah, but your father was right about one thing. You should keep pursuing special operations. You have what it takes. How do you know? Because you're still trying. Because you haven't given up after 3 rejections. That persistence is what separates people who make it from people who don't. I'm applying for the intelligence support activity, Sarah said. It's special operations, but it focuses on intelligence gathering. They need people with my background, and they specifically recruit women for certain missions. That's smart thinking. Play to your strengths. I learned it from you. Find a gap and fill it. Diana felt unexpected pride. When's your application due? Next month. I'm terrified. Good, fear means you care, just don't let it stop you. Diana paused. Sarah, this won't be easy. You'll face discrimination, doubt, probably harassment. You need to be ready for that. I am, or I will be. Sarah's voice was firm. Diana, can I tell you something? Of course. Before you called, I was thinking about quitting, about leaving the army and going to grad school or getting a normal job. But talking to you, hearing that it's possible, it changed everything. You changed everything. Diana felt tears prick her eyes. She blinked them back, maintaining her composure. I'm glad I could help, but Sarah, you have to do this for yourself. Not for me, not for your father, for you. I know, and I am, but it helps to know someone like you exists, someone who made it. After they hung up, Diana sat in her car for a while, processing the day. She'd stopped an assassination, saved the SecDef, and maybe, just maybe, inspired the next generation of female special operators. Not bad for someone nobody saw coming. Diana started her car and drove toward her hotel. Tomorrow she'd get new orders, fly to a new city, begin a new mission. The cycle would continue, the preparation, the tension, the invisible presence, the moment of action. She'd been Steel Cobra 6 for 4 years. How many more years could she sustain this pace? How many more missions before her luck ran out? Diana didn't know, didn't let herself think about it too much. All she knew was that somewhere right now, someone needed protection. Someone was in danger. Someone needed Steel Cobra.